Today, we're exploring how sadness can help us move towards our goals of a happier life. Yes, sadness means happiness. And it's interesting because most of us will do anything to make sadness go away, whether that's through shame, like suck it up, get it together, or through well-meaning comments like, oh, don't cry, baby girl. Or through, and this is the one I get most common, is finding solutions that's going to make the sadness go away as quickly as possible. And no matter what you've encountered, it is super clear that we are uncomfortable with sadness, whether that's our own sadness or someone else's sadness. So think for a second, how many of us don't want anyone to see us cry?
Mhm.
How many of us equate sadness with weakness? How many of us avoid a friend or colleague if we know that there's going to be sadness in that encounter? And we use excuses like, giving them space. But really, it's because we ourselves, we don't know what to do with sadness. And so today we're going to explore sadness and we're going to talk about how and why it shows up and how we can use it to build ourselves a happier life. So, Tara, I'm super curious. What have you encountered around sadness?
Gosh, I've encountered so much. And I have to point out one of the things that you said too is we're so uncomfortable with other people's sadness, mainly because we're uncomfortable with our own. And I think that that's a driving force for why we're always trying to make everyone happy, right? Because it's like, certainly feels uncomfortable for them to feel anything else. I wanted to share a story of when I was struggling and I felt brave enough to reach out to a friend and say, I'm really struggling at the moment. I don't have answers for what's going on in my life, and was pouring out my heart. And the response that I got was, but you don't ever struggle. You're always there for everybody. You know what to do. And it literally inside my whole body, it was like a vault just closed down, like I obviously I'm not supposed to share this. Wasn't right. This wasn't the right thing. I'm just supposed to be there for others and their struggle. I'm not supposed to ever struggle myself. Even though I knew with all the work that I do and in myself, like it's okay to struggle. It's absolutely okay. I think it's also important for us to know where we cultivate those relationships where you can share your sadness and it's not met with a startle, like, oh my gosh, not you, that kind of thing. Have you ever experienced anything with sadness that made you shut down, Christina?
Well, it's interesting. The very first thing you said was, I was brave enough to share with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the number one first hurdle, that like you acknowledge, okay, I'm sad myself. And instead of just, keeping it in, because that's the first thing we want to do, we have to take this brave, bold step of figuring out how to process it. And for a lot of us, that is going to be through sharing our story, sharing what's happened to us, and using those bonds of connection to move us forward. But we're so hesitant to do that. And I've encountered similar things where I have shared sadness with even my partner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I find my partner happens to be male, and I find that he wants to go directly into problem solving. He wants to go right into solutions. He wants to, as part of he sees it as part of his role as a man to make my sadness go away.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to teach him how to just allow me to work through it without that need to solve it. And
Mm-hmm.
that has been a really interesting journey, especially, you and I were talking about between the two of us, we are raising 6 boys, 6 young men. 5 of our 6 are now teenagers, and we are helping them to become men who have a little bit of a different view around feelings than what maybe they're encountering outside of us. And so I find it interesting because women, we're expected to be strong in so many ways. Like you said with your friend, we're expected to have it all together, especially those of us who are, that listening ear for our friends who are coaches. There's sort of like this misunderstanding that because we help people process that we don't have problems ourselves.
Right.
We show up as moms. Moms are supposed to have all of the answers. Moms are supposed to have everything together at all times. And that's just not the case. And so we struggle with these multiple identities and these multiple facets of ourselves. And the boys, they have a very similar struggle. And I have found that as my boys grow into men, they've started taking in stuff from media about what it means to be a man. And there is so much conflicting information out there.
Mhm.
One of the big ones is not allowing to have feelings. And one of my children is in a very interesting relationship with his girlfriend and guy friends.
Mhm.
And he, he has big feelings because he's a teenager, and he will share them with his girlfriend, but not with his guy friends.
Mhm.
And he's even talked about, no, guys don't talk about that stuff. Have you encountered that with your kids, or?
Absolutely. I remember my son coming to me, especially after one of his friends' fathers died, right?
Mm,
And he just said, I don't know how to navigate this because guys don't talk about these things. And I said, the biggest thing that you can do is be there for him, to verbally say to him, I'm here if you ever want to talk. And I said, and invite him over to the house more, because the one time that he invited him over, his friend actually arrived half an hour before my son did. My son was out of the house and immediately walked into the house and just downloaded
oh,
everything.
wow.
And so it's that, and also really letting our kids know, our sons know, that it's okay to show emotion. It's okay to show emotion for somebody else. If you're at the funeral to be choked up, it's okay to just say, I'm here for you, man. If you ever want to talk, to like have that opening. But I think also in our homes, for moms especially, to show our emotions around our boys.
Yes.
And then going back to that place that you were talking about with your partner, is helping them to know how to take care of us in that moment also helps them to know. I've done a similar thing where my partner in the past has said to me, oh, I don't want you to cry. I don't like it. And I just looked at him and I said, you are a safe space for me. This should be the greatest honor that you have ever had with me, is that I'm able to go to this place that I don't often go, where I can weep, release it, and then on the other side of it, feel whatever message, whatever clarity needs to come up. But having a safe space for me to let down my guard is huge. And going back to our boys, my oldest son, who's 17 and, pretty dudeish, right? He is absolutely that tender space too. If he sees I'm struggling, he'll come up and just wrap his arms around me and just hold me until I can get to a place where I'm connected to myself again. And I think that's really powerful, just for them to be in that space. Like, I'm not going to shy away from it. I'm going to go into it with somebody. And even if I don't talk,
Mm,
right, that's okay because I'm there.
yeah. Oh my goodness. I love that reframe. The idea that, you know, you being there to help me through this is an honor. And that
Mhm.
you providing me a safe space is an honor. I feel like that is something that people can really get behind, and men can really get behind, and ensuring that it goes both ways so that they don't encounter, kind of like what you encountered at the beginning, where you're supposed to be the strong one, right? So you are a safe space for the people around you, but you also honor them back by
Yeah.
allowing them to be the safe space for you. I feel like that is a really great mental reframe that allows it to be like a heroic move almost,
Yeah.
And
Uh,
yeah, I love that so much.
well,
So one of the things that I find so epically awesome about sadness is that it is an opportunity for us to build a relationship with ourselves. And I'd like to think, really quickly about if your child came into your house, they had a rough day and they just fall apart when they walk in the door, they've held it together for so long and they just fall apart. As the amazing, dedicated, wonderful, nurturing parent that you are, what would we do with that moment? I know what I would do, and I would just wrap that child in my arms, have them on my lap, and just let them do whatever needs to be done in the strength of my embrace. And so one of the amazing things about sadness is it allows that bond, because that sitting there with that child or that friend or whatever will create a bond between us. And one of the most epic things is that we also have a relationship with ourselves. We forget that we do, but we do. We have a relationship with ourselves. And imagining ourselves as that child and imagining our arms wrap around ourselves and just sit there in our, quiet processing space enables us to start building that trust and that connection with ourselves. What are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely love that. And to me, like, it's interesting as you were talking about this embrace all the time. I always look at these emotions, the depression, sadness, mourning, struggle, is like you feel like you're drowning. It's water emotion, right? So the embrace is like all of a sudden you're provided a life raft or a life preserver in the midst of all this water and all these waves. And you get to be it with yourself. You get to disconnect from everything else that's causing so much upheaval in your life, to go into that space of reconnection, to deeply press in. Like, I think of depression as deeply pressing in and self-discover instead of taking I think a lot of us take guilt to the place of connection to ourselves, right? It's like, okay, if I'm connecting to myself, it's a me versus them. Like, either I'm connecting to you or I'm connecting to myself. And now I've pulled myself away from you and productivity and however I have to show up for the world, right? And instead of bringing that guilt in, if we can go, this is my place to really pour into me, to get to that place where when I come out, I have something in me, like, fill up your cup, discover what else is in there so that you can pour out in a way that truly comes from an authentic place. It really is you, instead of just churning it out, being productive or just getting the thing done. So
Yeah, I love that. And I love the idea of, this dichotomy of the inner world versus the outer world. It's like a tug of war almost, right? Whereas if I'm giving to myself, I can't be giving to them. And if I'm giving to them, I can't be giving to myself. And it's not how relationships work. We're all multifaceted. Everything is a give and take. If you think of your relationship with your partner, different moments you're there for them, they're there for you, and you're going around and around. But I think the biggest message here is that that connecting with ourselves, because I do believe there's also a dichotomy within ourselves. And I teach people how to reconnect with ourselves. And the reason this is so difficult is because we have created like a wall around ourselves. It's our programmed self. We've created this way of being that is, our mask. And that way of being has certain expectations. And the expectations around sadness are huge. The expectations are that you have everything together and that you are productive and professional. There's no room for sadness in the word professional. You are the mom, you are the leader of your family, you are the manager of finances, you plan all the dinners, you have everything together. And that is the person that you're trying to be, that with a definition of success that matches that. But then you also have your true self, and your true self is just the little child within you. It's just that raw and perfectly beautiful place without any definition of success. And there's like a little war, and the sadness comes up saying, hey, love me. And the programmed self says, I don't have time for that. I'm busy. I'm doing other things, and then the sadness just keeps coming. And to me, this is a big reason that we end up going down the path of depression is
Mhm.
because our true selves keep saying, but I have a message, I have feelings, I have sadness, and it starts compounding, and we keep just shoving it down. So we're struggling with so many different multiple levels of push-pull around who we are and who we are expected to be on the outside. And so I feel that if we allow sadness a place and we start, you know, giving it that nurturing embrace, that's when we start moving closer and closer to who we are. Do you
I
agree with that?
agree. I absolutely agree. And that statement that you said, like, I don't have time for this. I know I've said it. I know I've heard other people say it. And yet there's something really empty to going for the goals that we have in life if we're not touched by life. Right. And so going to that place that you were talking about, the essence inside, whatever age that essence is, because I'm like, little child, adolescent, I got an adolescent inside. It's a bit rebellious. I really nurture it these days because I'm like, I'm not going to fight against that rebellious side of me that was told it was wrong a long time ago and I needed to like fit into the parameters. These days, I'm like, that is a part of cultivating a life that touches me, that touches other people, that brings some vibrancy to it. And so I think that part of this is we have to go back and really look at what are we trying to create with our lives? Are we just trying to get to some freaking destination, right? Or do we want to be fully in it and really deeply connected to other people? Yeah.
Oh,
What do you think?
100%. And it's interesting that you talked about the goals because what happens is we create our goals from our programmed self. Our
Mhm.
goals are programmed goals. Our goals are mind BS, you know?
Mhm.
And then we get on what I call the happiness treadmill, trying to achieve these goals. And we have this belief that these goals are going to lead to happiness,
Mhm.
right? If I just get that bigger house, or if I just buy my first house, or whatever it is, if I just get married, if I just have a baby, I'm going to be happy. If I just get that promotion, I'm going to make more money and I'm going to be happier, right?
Mhm.
And we have these program goals that link to our program definition of success. And what happens, and the reason I call it the happiness treadmill is because we run and we run and we chase these goals and we don't get anywhere. We don't get closer to happiness. We move into the bigger house and we're like, yes, because people who live in those houses obviously are happy. Look how pretty those houses are. I'm in one now and I have the exact same life as I had in my smaller house, but I have more to clean and more
Right.
expenses. And, you know, and so we're shocked that we're not happier. And the path to becoming happier, exactly like you said, is to redefine those goals, is to start creating goals from our true selves and to
Mhm.
start taking steps that's going to allow us to drop some of those old programs and those old definitions of success and bring ourselves into a way of being that honors who we are. And
Mhm.
I feel that sadness is one of the best ways for us to honor who we are and for us to connect with who we are and for us to start building that trusting relationship, right? Giving ourselves that safe space that you were talking about at the beginning and
Mhm.
allowing ourselves to process it. And I love that you talk about, you know, pressing in. Like it's
Mhm.
an opportunity to press in. Sadness is an opportunity to nurture. And it's that pressing in and that nurturing that allows us to just let go of the expectations of the world and just be with ourselves and just let ourselves have the space that we need to be human. And that starts bringing us closer and closer to our true selves. And the closer we get to our true selves, the more our happiness increases.
Absolutely. I love that. It's such an intimate emotion that without it, I don't believe that we truly feel fulfilled. Right? It is the connective nature that pulls people in. And I think the last thing I wanted to share about it too is to continue to be that for yourself, a safe place for yourself, and continue to cultivate those openings, get brave. Just because I was met with that and other people are met with that response sometimes doesn't mean that we shouldn't share our sadness in the moment. It's not brave, because I've done this too. It's not brave to share it like after it's already done,
Mm.
it all wrapped up, and here's the lesson or invitation that came from it, and this is how I handled it. It's so much braver and it's so much more connective to another person to share in the moment and to break yourself open and let them hold you. Let them be that life raft for you. And I just invite more and more people to do that for themselves, right? To do that for yourself first, because I truly believe the world treats us like we treat ourselves. So going back to what you were saying earlier about like, this is really important for us to reconnect and to value and honor ourselves. The world doesn't treat us how we treat others. So if you put everybody else as a priority, why do you not get to prioritize? Because you're last on your list and everybody's like, she's good with that, right? Or he's good with that. If you start to share these tender moments with a safe person, and you may need to teach them because we're all struggling with this, right? Teach them about the power of holding you up is, and then I think we're going to change the world together. At least we're going to change our own worlds.
I think that is the perfect final message. So the world treats you how you treat yourself. Learn how to love yourself, visualize giving yourself the comfort that you need, the same comfort you would give to other people. And then use that to start reaching out to other people and allowing them to be the safe place and the life raft for you. Those are the steps for how you use sadness to bring more happiness into your lives. All right, this is wonderful. This has been another Befriending Your Feelings with Tara and Christina, and we look forward to next week. What are we talking about next week, Tara?
Resentment.
Oh, yes. So we look forward to next week where we're going to be digging into resentment, which is one of my most favorite emotions and something that I really struggled with for many years and is now my best friend. So we will see you soon. Bye. Join me in my Blissfully Busy Facebook group to see if we can figure out how to dodge burnout together.